Hello, class. This is Professor Tweed, and I want to show you another way that you can possibly do trees that can be good if you spend the time to do it and don't have good other options. And that's because Photoshop itself can do some trees for you under Filter. So if you go to Filter and you go to Render, you can come down to Trees. And actually, I should cancel this out really quick because I want to make a new layer because I don't want to put it on the tree that I've already shown you how to import. This is the one that I had from Illustrator that I made myself that I sort of like to use a lot. If I go down to Render, I go to Trees here. And then the interesting thing here is you got lots of choices. I don't know that they're necessarily the 100% best looking tree in all situations, but if you want a specific kind of tree or a tree to start to work from which you can do all kinds of sorts of things, you can pick one. So I have maple tree selected just because I think there's maple trees would look good in this particular setting. And what you can do is you can adjust the lighting to match your background image by pulling this. So if I pulled this way, the lighting comes from the other side. Now in this case, my drawing, the lighting is coming from the right hand side, so I'm going to keep it over to the right. And I can play with all these settings to sort of, it changes the tree look a little bit. I can have less leaves. I tend to like in renderings, especially in the foreground, a little bit less leaves. It doesn't, like I said, I don't think this looks has quite as much flexibility as the one that I had already put in there, but that's a different point. I can change the size, I can change all these branches stuff. The nice thing is, when I hit OK, I'll show you it's going to re-render, but I can also add, one of the nice things about this is that I can get the same type of tree just sort of randomized just by playing with this button. So I can do this multiple times and get a bunch of maple trees that are similar but actually do look different like trees would look. You can also play around with advanced features if you want to. So if I use, for example, use custom colors, you can specify the color of the leaf and make a fall color or whatever the case might be. Just by changing that, making it brighter if that's what you want to do. I'm not going to do that for this case because I don't have a fall setting. But it does give you a lot of variations, and quite honestly, when you say OK, it's just going to take a second to render it, and it's going to sort of put it in the middle of the screen, and you still have to do everything else you need to do to a tree to make it work. So I'm going to go to transform, I'll go to free transform, I'll say move it over here, you scale it down to be the right size for your image. It doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense for me to put a tree in this spot given that my background image has trees, but if I wanted to do that, I should certainly go ahead and do that, and I would have to do the same thing that I did with the shadows for my other elements. So I might come up to my shadow layer there, control click on the tree, oops, that's the wrong tree, control click on that tree to get the pixel selected, fill it black or whatever color you happen to be using for your image. As we talked about, it doesn't necessarily have to be black. And then distorting that down to sort of get the shadow as needed. I'm going to have to, in this case, I'm going to have to remove the shadow from the building just by selecting around because the shadow needs to sit behind that building, not in front of it, but my shadow layer is on top for a variety of reasons. So you can add that tree. Again, I can go and re-render the tree. I could go filter, render, come back, tweak some settings and get a different one and really fill the background with very controlled set of trees. I think in this video series I'm going to show you a sky as well. So the reality is, in theory, you can start with nothing but a blank background. You can get a sky, or you can render your own sky. You can add trees as you need to. You can pull them from Illustrator, pull them from Google, pull them from Photoshop, and sort of add the trees in if you really want a lot of control, or maybe you're trying to match a setting or something like that. And of course you could do the same with the foreground, really get control of that, and I'll probably show various options for all of these moving forward. But I think that tree thing's sort of nice. And the nice thing too is, I feel like it doesn't look quite like a real tree. It has sort of a somewhat stylistic quality to it that sort of looks like computer generated, because it is. In fact, I'm going to delete this tree off. I'll just turn the layer off of mine because I just prefer my tree over here. But it's quick and easy, and if you need to, you could always go in Photoshop and make trees this way and actually use them in Illustrator as well for some of the Illustrator stuff we were looking at. in class and other segments. So it is a powerful tool that has its use, and you should feel free to experiment with that tree tool as well and mix and match trees. There you go.